Well, Philip Turle from our International Affairs Desk is joining me here on set. First of all, Philip, I'd like to ask you about that extension of that ceasefire, of course, by Donald Trump. Donald Trump talks about the Iranian government being seriously fractured. What's the truth to that, do you think?
I think it's a little bit more complex than the government being seriously fractured. Of course, over the last few weeks, we've had various reports, assertions that within Iran's leadership there is disagreement over exactly what path is the right path to follow. Basically, if you break it down, you have the hardliners, the mullahs, those who are in charge of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards, who do not want to negotiate with the United States and see all this as the US pushing them to go to the negotiating table, and they say they are not willing to give in to the US's demands. On the other side, you have more moderates within the Iranian leadership, notably the foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, who has pushed the idea that negotiations with the US would be a good thing because that would avoid any further bombing raids against Iran, which the country really can't take on right now, and also it would all help to alleviate the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Where all this came crashing down was the fact that when Iran announced it was lifting the break or the hold on the Strait of Hormuz last week, it expected the US to do the same thing. And the US said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep hold of the Iranian ports, and we're not going to lift the blockade on that part. So that's meant the Iranians then reimposed a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz the next day. So that's undermined the idea that the US is serious about these negotiations. And that's why we're seeing a coming together, I think, of spirits within Iran, which is not good news for the future of these negotiations taking place. Basically, where the Iranians say, well, we're not going to be pushed into something we don't want to be pushed into, and we're going to hold out as long as we can. We've held out this long so far. There's nothing to prevent us from holding out a while longer.
Philip, in the meantime, of course, some of the violence is continuing. And just hearing, in fact, of a cargo ship leaving Iran has been fired upon, apparently. We've also heard over the last few days of drone strikes on Saudi Arabia. Those drone strikes, is there a role here from Iraq?
Well, militias in Iraq are a bit in the same domain as Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are funded by Iran, and they are coming together now more virulently against some of the neighbors of Iran and launching attacks there. This is to put the pressure on the United States and on Israel to end their war against Iran. What we have here is a popular mobilization forces front, which has been active for about the last 12 years or so, but brings together many Shia groups which have been around since the early start of the 21st century and were originally defending Shia areas against Sunni militants after the US invasion of Iraq back in 2003. They then took on a role fighting against the Islamic State after it came into Iraq from Syria in 2014. Now, there are about 250,000 members of this proxy group, the mobilization forces, plus several $1 billion in funds, and they also own long-range missiles. So what they've been doing is firing drones and missiles into Saudi Arabia, for example. They've hit the Yanbu oil hub in Saudi Arabia, which is a very important oil hub in the country, and also oil fields in the eastern provinces of Saudi Arabia. That's not all. They've also hit Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and the US embassy in Baghdad, which has been evacuated several times. The question is, why are they doing this now? The answer to that is that they feel under threat because they say that, well, look, this war that has been imposed on Iran by the United States and by Israel is independently weakening our ability to receive funds from the Iranians and to be able to maintain our activity. That's why we've launched these attacks right now against our neighbors. The response from the neighbors is, well, it's easiest for us to attack Iraqi militant groups in Iraq, which are backed by Iran, than it is for us to fire missiles into Iran because we don't fear the retaliation from those militant groups so much as we would from the Iranians if we fired missiles into Iran, which is why they haven't retaliated against these strikes from Iranian militia groups in the past. So it's a situation that is very volatile. The United States has also got involved in this by reportedly suspending US dollar shipments to Iraq and frozen security cooperation programs with its military in Iraq. That's according to the Wall Street Journal, to a sum of about $500 million dollars, which has been stopped from being sent to the Iraqi authorities. Just to sum it up, Iraq is basically in the same situation as Lebanon. That's to say, the Iraqi government doesn't have enough control over these militia groups to rein them in, just like the Lebanese government doesn't really have enough power to rein in Hezbollah, and that's why they are feeling under threat right now, and they're launching these attacks.
I mean, we really haven't talked so much about the Gulf states in recent days, Philip. I mean, what's been the reaction, would you say, from the Saudis, the other Gulf states as well, that have suffered from these attacks?
Right, well, Saudi Arabia has said that it's going to start launching symbolic attacks in Iraq as a warning to the militias there. Both Kuwait and Bahrain have said they will allow the US to use their bases so that they can launch attacks on Iraqi territory there. These attacks have basically strained relations between Iraq's government and its Gulf neighbours, because Iraq says, well, look, we're the victim of a situation we don't have any control over. This is being financed by Iran. You should go after these groups within Iran itself. But I think the militias are showing themselves to be stronger than the national government, as I was saying, much like Hezbollah is strong in Lebanon right now.
Philip, thanks very much. Philip Turle, international affairs editor here on France 24.